Hello, I'm back. Maybe I should have done it on computer. Don't laugh at me, but I hadn't figured out how to make sure that my phone doesn't cut off the video. So someone had called and it actually totally cut off the video. So I apologize. Hopefully, no one will be trying to contact me, and I'm going to figure out what's going on with this. But again, I'm here to talk about finding happiness in the midst of these times and tools for happiness in the midst of these times. And I actually jotted down some tools that can make a big difference for finding happiness in these times. As I was going to say, it's very easy to just let this take us over because we're being bombarded all the time about what's going on with this coronavirus and the unfortunate situations of some people dying, people being sick, things of that nature. If we're not careful, they can just totally take us over and have us in a state of anxiety. So I wanted to make sure that I listed some tools that would help us stay happy or move into our happiness during these times. And these are the tools, and I'm going to elaborate on the tools as we go through them. Uh, One of the tools I actually put out in a Facebook post, and I think I mentioned it last week, but it's just to find one movie that you like, or even program that you like. I prefer a movie just because it's a longer duration, it's a couple hours, and uh, and I guess because I like movies also. But if you just watch one movie a day that you find to be uplifting, remind you of your spirituality, that's inspiring, you watch one per day, it can make all the difference in the world. I've actually experimented with this even during this situation. I had days when I was watching one movie that I pick out and I say, okay, this is what I'm going to watch for today. And then days when I didn't. And my day was totally different the days that I watched the movie that I found uplifting and inspiring. And and I also apologize because in time I'm going to be able to know how to respond as people are watching. Like I see Rose Reader right there. Hello, Rose. So I'll be getting better at this also. But the days that I did find myself watching the movie, even if I didn't watch it all in its entirety at once, everything was different that particular day. My uplifting, inspiring movie. One day I was watching 16 Blocks, and I just put it in early in the morning, and I might have only watched about, I don't know, 30 minutes or so while I was eating breakfast. Then uh, I stopped and I went about some other things I had to do. And then when I had more time, I came back to it and watched some more. Then I came back to it, I watched some more. But all throughout my day, I was being reminded of all of the inspiring things that were happening in this movie and the transformation of the characters involved in the movie. And it was working on my mind. And I noticed my day was a whole lot different the day I did that. Since then, I've been doing it every day. As I was saying, it can make all the difference in the world when we're doing this. So that's one thing that I suggest that we do. And if you like, you can also please let me know the results when you do this. We can come back to this video because it'll still be up after it's live, and just say, hey, I watched so and so and it made a big difference, or I did this for a couple days. Uh, so that's one tool. Watch one inspiring movie a day to put your mind in a higher place. Also, of course, this goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do not watch too much of the news. Yes, we want to see a certain amount because we want to know what is happening and make sure that we are connected to the things that are happening. But at the same time, we don't want to watch too much because it will just totally uh, bombard you, and it'll do the opposite of what the uplifting movie will do. So what I find myself actually doing is, or what I have been doing is, I may watch maybe just the announcements from the governor or just the announcements from the president, just so I know what changes I'm going to have to adhere to. Excuse me, I'm just making a couple of things I got to do here. What changes I have to adhere to in my world, but after that, I stop because it's just too much. I just can't do it. So, and I've noticed the less I watch of these things, the less my mind is on it. When I was watching it day and night, I was starting to dream about it, and it was just getting to be too much. That's something else. Before we go to bed, try to read something inspiring, watch something inspiring. I don't care if it's just for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Make the last thing on your mind be something that you would like to have on your mind, or something that you would maybe even wouldn't mind showing up in your dreams or running through your mind, your subconscious, as you live your life at night. So that's two things. Another thing that we can do is to get our mind on the bigger picture. I also would consider this to be get our lesson. That's actually two things, but they're sort of so interrelated. I mentioned them both at once. When we get our mind on the bigger picture, this makes all the difference in the world, because I maintain that although this is happening, and although this is something that we may not want to be happening, at the same time, in the universe, everything is happening for us to get something out of it. It's happening for a reason, even if we can't see why initially. It is happening for a reason. Actually, in my page, 30 Days of Metaphysics and Miracles in Your Life, I included a saying that Mr. Brister used to always say, and actually a lot of these sayings he got from other places, some of them from Bible, some of them from spiritual hymns, some of them from old Hindu texts, all over the place. But this one particular goes like this. He said, must Jesus bear the cross alone and the whole world go free? No, there's a cross for everyone. Surely there's one for me. And it's so interrelated with this other one that I'm going to mention, that, that I'm going to mention this other one too, because they both apply. But this other one he would say, you know, Sonny, even Jesus hollered when he was on the cross. Now, the cross, that symbolizes a tough situation, a tough time. You know, when Jesus was on the cross, you know, he was crying to God, you know, Father, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? Why have you put me in this place? Why is this going on? And I'm sure in his mind, he's like, I've done all this good for all these people. I've been with you. In today's terms, I've been down with you the whole time. Why are you allowing this to happen? And according to the story, he reflected. He said, thy will is done. Now, when he reflected and said, thy will is done, that's saying that this is all a part of your plan. Even though this is the worst thing I could ever think of happening. Even though this is something that I would have never dreamed of. Even though this is something I thought you would never do to me, thy will is done. This is what is meant to happen, so let me get what's coming out of it. And it's also said that when he reflected, he began to help the other that was right next to him on the cross. All of a sudden, he's above the entire situation. And this is what we have to do. We have to reflect, and there's many ways of reflecting. We can stop and we can say, hey, what changes am I being made to make in my world that maybe I should have been making anyway? I found that in my life. There's many changes that I've made that I should have been making a long time ago. One is like making this video. Years ago, I used to be on the internet every single week, and I stopped. Now, I have my meditation center where I teach my classes and so forth, but I had stopped, and I have my blog and my website, but I had stopped being on the internet every single week like I used to. Back when I first started doing this, I taught over 5,000 people how to meditate in 1 year, which was a big change from what I had done previously. And at that time, I was even getting bombarded. I was getting bombarded with questions, people calling, well, not calling, but they were sending in emails, and they were coming from all over the world. They come from India. I think more from India than anywhere else. And I guess life came up. Situations came that made me stop doing it. And I've been knowing I need to for some time. I was saying this last week. Also, during this process, we ended up not being able to meet at the meditation center. And so it made me do something that I needed to do. And this is one of the things we have to ask ourselves. What changes do I need to make? What growth do I need to experience? Also, during this process, I also have reflected. I've meditated more than usual. During one of those meditations, it was an interesting thing. I saw myself at this church-like building, this big, huge building. I don't know if it was a church. You might call it a temple. You may call it an ashram, whatever you want to call it. It was a holy place. And I'm walking the grounds in my dream, and I'm just marveling at it. I'm loving the landscape and everything. And as I'm walking, I'm like, man, this is a beautiful place. And then some ministers pulled up on the side of me, down on the road, and they said, you know, you should be happy and know how blessed you are to have this church. Now, once again, I teach meditation, but at the same time, it's also a spiritual thing. And I said, yeah, this place is huge. I'm like, but you know, I just have about this many people I'm dealing with. I don't have this big. They said, well, this is your place. And I looked, and it was vast, and it was beautiful. And I was like, man. And at the time, information was coming my way, telling me that this is the potential place. And at the same time, it was coming to me saying it's time to go back on the internet. The size of your place on the internet is unlimited. It doesn't hold 50 people, 150 people, 200 people, 300, 400. No, it holds a vast amount of people if they decide to come, or when they decide to come. And I was being told that this is the place that was being talked about, but it was symbolized by this beautiful structure, and I felt it with everything within me. And it was the spiritual information that comes from the reflection. Since then, I've been reflecting more and more. I haven't mentioned this, but and maybe I have at some point. I know to people that come into the meditation center may know this, but I have like a claustrophobic type condition. You know, I don't like for instance, I don't like elevators. I'll do an elevator if I have to, but I'd rather walk up 4 flights of stairs than be in an elevator. I just don't like that not having control if the doors decide not to open or whatever when the elevator comes to my floor. But it's not just elevators. I have this type of situation where maybe it's an anxiety situation. That's a good way to put it. And when this came up, initially I was beginning to feel anxiety just about my whole world, what's going on in my world and so forth. And this is bringing me to the next tool that we have to use besides accepting the situation and looking for the growth in the situation. The next tool that we have to use is get the spiritual knowledge. Get the gnosis. Gnosis. I remember Mr. M. Bristol, my meditation teacher, he mentioned gnosis. I remember in meditative books, they would talk about gnosis. It was direct knowledge. And this direct knowledge, it comes from within. It's different than even book learning or learning in a university or what have you. It's the direct knowledge that comes from the soul. And when you get this direct knowledge, it is totally different than any other kind of knowledge, and you feel it within your body. He used to say you could take all the knowledge from all the books and all the colleges, from all the lives I've ever lived. It wouldn't add up to a fraction of the part of the sublime beauty of the soul. Now, this gnosis is that type of knowledge. I happened to be on my in my cousin's watch party on Facebook, and it was for her church, and her minister was talking, and he was for lack of a better way to put it, he was jamming. I mean, he was really coming with some information. I was like, check this out. And at one point, he said something that really caught my attention. He said, epignosis is supernatural knowledge. And I was like, oh man, because I love it when I see the oneness of information, whether it comes from a minister, whether it comes from a meditation teacher or a guru type, whether it comes from a philosopher. It's all knowledge is knowledge and truth is truth. And when he said the epignosis, I know there was a gnosis, the epignosis. He said it's supernatural knowledge. We have to get that type of knowledge. That's what the meditation process is all about, is getting ourselves out the way so this higher consciousness within us can give us the epignosis, the supernatural knowledge. Now, as I said, I was starting to feel closed in, like, oh man, this is just too much. I'm seeing too much going on in my life. I'm seeing too much going on around me with this. And I'm being confined. I don't like being confined. And I would feel it as soon as I woke up. I'd have this terrible feeling. Then I meditated. And right after the meditation, I wouldn't have the feeling anymore. I'd even be excited about the things I'm to do, excited about who I am to become through this. So I started meditating more often. In time, I would actually wake up excited to move into my mornings during this process because I'm excited to move to the next place. I didn't feel the anxiety. I felt totally different. I was telling my daughter the other day, I was saying when they have mentioned that it may take longer before we are no longer restricted. I was telling her, I looked at it as though, man, now I have more time to work on the things that I need to work on in order to become who I need to become. It's like I look at it as an opportunity in my world. I don't want to see anyone hurt or anyone go through any unnecessary sickness or anything like that. But this is where I am. I have to use where I am to become who I am meant to become. This has happened in my world for a reason. This happened in your world for a reason. Get the epignosis, get the spiritual knowledge that makes you feel charged by it to be who you are meant to become through the process. And as we do, we'll be able to look back and we'll be able to say, man, this had to happen in my world to get me to where I need to be. And we can't focus on where I'm going to be later. We have to become that person now. Live it out. And as we do, where we will end up will be a different place. But we can be that person now who is commensurate with where we're going to be. And as we do this, as we live in this way, we will be happy. We will enjoy our moments. We will cherish our time with our family and all these different things that are coming out of this. My son and I, we go for a walk every day. This is the time that we talk. We're talking more now than we used to. This is one of the goods coming out of the situation. We have to look. One more thing we have to do, look for the good in the situation. And combined with all of these tools, perhaps the most important is that we are taking the time to reflect and to meditate. And I'm talking about the meditation, but if you don't know how or don't have the method, if you go to my website, positiveguru.com, which all you have to do is click on the button that says learn this. It'll be at the bottom of the video after the video is over if it's not up now. If you click on that, it'll take you to the website. Click on meditation. It'll explain why we meditate with this particular type of meditation that we practice. It will also, then there's another one that's right up under it that you can click on, and it'll walk you through how to meditate. Practice this, because the idea is for us to get all of our ego-centered, lower consciousness thoughts and ideas and worries out of our minds, so we can move into the gnosis, the epignosis, so we can move into the yoga breath that is above all the cares and worries of this world. One time that came to me during the meditation. There's a yoga breath that is above all the cares and worries of this world. And as I was meditating, I was asking myself, I hope I didn't talk about this last week, but it's so I still have to talk about it. I was asking myself, should I stop meditating now? I have all these problems going on. And I'm feeling blissful right now. I'm feeling so good. But I got to focus on getting the answers to this. And something told me, no. This breath that you're experiencing, this blissful state that you're experiencing, this incredible feeling you're experiencing, just stay with it. And I was being told that this is the yoga breath that is above all the cares and worries of the world. I was noticing a breath that was coming through me as I was meditating. I was even noticing a new mantra that I was moving into, even though I had my particular mantra. And I say whatever mantra we are given during the meditation process, to stick with that mantra. But I was feeling something different going on at that time. And I was literally seeing myself floating. And I was seeing all my problems. And they were all being taken care of while I was in this state. And I was being told the idea is to stay in the higher consciousness. And the information will just come. Going back to this gnosis that comes from the meditation, this morning I got answers to 2 different things that I've been trying to figure out. And they just came to me in a flash. One happened right at the end of the meditation. Another one happened a few minutes later. But I knew it was on account of the level of consciousness I was moving into. Though we may not like what is happening, it's an invitation to move to our next level spiritually. And as we do, we'll find the happiness. Now, we may have to do it over and over and over. We may slip out of the happiness for a minute, but then we go right back to our tools. And we'll find that it works. First I felt this way, now I feel that way. Mr. Bristol would say that's you experimenting. We're spiritual scientists. We experiment. We don't just take anybody's word for it. We put it to the test in our lives. And that's the idea. Now, if you're looking for a good movie to watch, I know I'm pretty confident that 16 Blocks is on Netflix. It's just it's a great movie. It's dealing with following the signs, seeing the signs. It's just and even an involvement of character in the midst of a difficult situation. And another one is Pleasantville. I've been watching that one. I'm not sure Pleasantville is on Netflix or Prime or where you can find it. But if you can't find it, it is an excellent movie. I may even talk about it more next week, but it's an excellent movie. And the one thing I will say is about the Pleasantville movie is they are stuck in this, they're in this world, this whole different world. And everything's the same in that world all the time. And then throughout the movie, and it's in black and white. Their whole world is in black and white. But throughout the movie, as each person gets their lesson in who they are to become through what is going on, things that were hidden within them, they become in color. And that's the way it is with us. And we have to find what's going to make us in color. What's going to bring us to a higher level of happiness than we used to have in our old world. And then we have to live in the new world that way. And it starts right here, right now. I invite you, of course, to leave comments, to like, share this video. And I'm Craig Kimbrough with Positive Guru. I am happy to be here with you, and hope that we all stay safe, stay strong. Until next week, peace and blessings to you all, and have a good week. Thank you.